All right, guys. Do you ever feel like you're stuck in an endless loop of emails, pings, and back to back meetings with zero time to actually think? Well, Microsoft has just dropped a work lab report that puts numbers to that feeling. 100 plus emails, chats, and meetings hijacking your most productive work hours. They're calling it the Infinite Workday. And frankly, it's burning people out. So it begs the question, what is the solve? Is it AI? Is it redesigning how teams collaborate together? Now, I'm curious to hear y'all's take on this. So, what do we think needs to change for marketing teams to really be able to take back control of their time?
Well, I guess to your first question, do we feel it? I'd say yes. I think everybody feels it right now. And I'd say Hinge is no exception, right? We work with a lot of clients with, big demands, complicated projects. At Hinge, we're running our own marketing system and marketing program as well. So there's just a lot of moving pieces, a lot of things happening. And I think one problem too is there's like a lot of places where information is being shared, right? So there's email, there's chat, there's tools like Monday. It just feels like there's a lot of places. And then you kind of bring all of those onto your cellular device as well. And it's just like compounded, right? Joe, I mean, do you feel the same way and you're kind of into the table?
It's communication overload. Or frankly, Mary Blanchard and the Reed talked about the 100 plus emails. This report said that the average worker is getting 117 emails and 153 Teams messages. There's your Microsoft branding, but we'll just say it 153 chats, Slacks, whatever it might be. And in between all of that, it's a fragmented reality of every few minutes, you've got a meeting, an email, a notification, something just popping up to put your brain in a different place than where, frankly, sometimes it needs to be. So I think what ends up happening is people just naturally start to divide up that day to keep their brains sane. So I think one thing, like, for example, that I do is if I've got a call that doesn't require me to be on Zoom or Teams or you name the video application, where I can just kind of dial into it and it's in the middle of the day, I'm going for a walk. I take those calls on the move, take my two dogs for a walk, try to get 2 miles in a nice hilly area. So it's like I think we've inherently, especially people that have some amount of flexibility in how they work or where they work, we've started to build in the breaks, if you will, which extends the day because you still got a boatload of work to do.
I think it also really it's how you work well with your team. Like who are your team members and how can you best work with them? I know one thing for me, the back-to-back meeting fatigue, I mean, that will really get to me, especially the way I work. I'm a morning person. And so I do my best thinking time and my best actual doing of the things in the morning. So when I have a week where I have a bunch of morning meetings back to back and then I'm getting to the afternoon, I mean, that's tough, right? So I think when you are able to have that open communication with your team about working styles and how people work together, you can really help to eliminate some of that meeting fatigue and finding a way that works well for you.
I agree with that. And I would say another kind of muscle I've been flexing recently is just saying no. Like, maybe you are added to like a call where there's already a hefty representation of people on your team, or, maybe it's something that could be kind of kicked down the road like a week. I think earlier in my career, I wouldn't speak up and say like, hey, like this isn't the right priority for right now. I would kind of just lean on maybe it's a project manager or maybe it's, the director of a project or an initiative. But now, and I think, this works really well at Hinge because we have a lot of trust together. But, if you have a clear sense of like what priorities need to be focused on, speaking up and saying like, hey, let's move this. But, coming with a proposal, right? Like, I understand this is a priority. I understand that does not need to be like ignored. But at the moment, there's already a lot happening. And I'll do that as like MB, like you said, like sometimes I'll see like in between like this nice, beautiful 2 hour gap during the day where I don't have any meetings. And there's just like a 15-minute meeting put on my calendar or a 30-minute meeting. Sometimes I'll ask if that can slide around because I need those bigger working spaces to actually do the work. And so I think a lot of, I think one muscle people can flex is, speaking up, understanding the priorities and trying to kind of communicate that it's actually in everyone's interest to make the move and making a case for why. I think a lot about how marketers should be thinking about this. because I think marketers sometimes are ones that are adding a lot of demand to people's plates. I'm thinking about like an accounting firm, right? Where during busy season, everyone is cranking super long hours. But that doesn't mean that the demands for marketing your business are just going away, right? Maybe you have to write some blog posts or get some new videos up, or you're overhauling your career section. You need to get some stuff from people. I think marketers, we have a special responsibility that when we are interfacing with people who are very client facing and very billable, or have a lot of demands for on the business development side, that we have to make our asks very clear, just like in good marketing, right? Very simple ask. And we will have to have front loaded the work and come prepared, right? I can tell you from my experience and maybe even mistakes I've made in the past, nothing will frustrate your team more than you showing up and just kind of opening up a meeting or opening up a conversation for like a big brainstorming session. And people will feel like my time is being wasted right now. I need to be working on these like high priority client projects, but now the marketing team is asking for a brainstorming session. I think marketers need to, especially right now, be very sensitive to the demands people are facing, the stuff outlined in the report MB, and make things as easy as possible for the team members that you're working with. What do you guys think about that?
I think one of our project managers at Hinge are one thing that they're so good at that really speaks to what you were just saying, Austin, is they will not only have an agenda in the calendar invite for like this is what we're going to cover. It's like, hey, here's the information, and I expect that you will have reviewed this and come prepared to the meeting. So I think being able to have that prep work and that time in advance of the meeting, then you're able to make the most of that time. And then the output is what is intended to be. Because it is. It's like when you're in these back-to-back meetings and then you just show up to a meeting, it's not productive in the way it's intended to.
That's right. I mean, and it was unsurprising to see that Microsoft was pushing their AI agenda in this report, right? But I mean, reality is AI, as we've discussed numerous times on the show, is here to stay. And how that can also play a role in breaking up meeting fatigue and a variety of other elements. A lot of times now, if you join a meeting and you don't see one of these co-pilots or note takers or whatever it might be, it's surprising, frankly, because nowadays people can very much engage in this conversation, much like we're doing in this podcast, but on their meetings with their colleagues or with their clients and things along those lines, and not necessarily have to focus on taking those notes or sending 6 other chats at the same time, leaning into some of these different tools. So it's not surprising, right? And there are ways that you can leverage tools to help avoid the burnout feel. I think the report referenced 1 in 3 employees feel like their pace of work is unsustainable. And, I think we're in an anxious world nowadays, right? You hear about it all the time. And so, yeah, there's some solutions out there. And the idea, hey, how do we really kind of go about our life? And when it comes to a personal life and a professional life. So this is a great topic.
One thing I'll add that I've been thinking about on the topic of the AI tools and stuff is there's a lot of focus on the efficiency aspect of it. And one of the results of efficiency, right, is increased velocity, right? We're doing things faster. But as you just mentioned, Joe, the speed at which we're doing things is actually one of the things that's stressing us out the most. So there's a real dilemma here that I think we're starting to grapple with in terms of like, okay, even AI tools, being presented and productized and marketed to us by Microsoft as being kind of this savior. I think it's actually still going to be kind of one of the things that's stressing us out because now everyone's expectations are, well, just use AI because you can do it faster. And so now everyone's expectation floor has risen for, what the work is and how much time you have to do it. So I think we just need to be sensitive to that. And again, as marketers, I think making sure that in everything that you do, you're being intentional, that you're focusing on quality, and don't get too wrapped up on the speed and efficiency thing if it's going to come at a heavy kind of personal cost, right? You're going to stress everybody out. You need to be mindful of those, and it needs to be in your calculus of your strategy. Like, is this worth it? Is the time it's going to take going to be worth it? And have I fully done everything on my end to be prepared and to make sure that the asks I'm making are going to be, worth the effort I'm asking from others. So I don't know. It's something else I'm thinking about. AI is going to make things easier, but it's also kind of fueling the stress a little bit too.